What is up, gamers? Welcome to another YouTube video. Today's one is a little funny. We're doing the top 5 most controversial game companies. Now, of course, opinionated, you know how it is. I will also give one or two of these companies a little bit of credit. They are getting better. Again, this is of course something that can change over time. I do have a bit of faith in one of these companies that they will improve. They're just not doing the best right now. But let's get into it. Top 5. So we're starting from the best of the worst to the worst of the worst. So, in number 5, we have got nicalis. This one's a smaller indie company. I am biased. I do have a personal gripe with this company because they took one of my favorite games, Cave Story, and kind of shafted it. They kind of ruined it. nicalis is known for one ghosting indie developers. So nicalis had talked to the Enter the Gungeon developers and ghosted them after some time. Kind of shitty, but not the worst thing. It does get worse, though. They have been found buying outright IPs and trying to screw over other indie game developers. Like the Binding of Isaac developer, Edmund McMillan, actually actively avoids nicalis. And ever since making their latest DLC for Binding of Isaac, they've actually stopped using nicalis as a developer. They only worked with nicalis for what they contractually had to. So nicalis it's not the worst one, but it is very bad. And this one's something I don't have a lot of faith in. I don't see them improving. I've heard a lot of weird things about the creator, the CEO. Oh, also, the CEO has been found making like racist and homophobic jokes, which for the CEO of the company is not really something you want to do, especially in a work group chat. So, not something I don't want to give this company any money. I do not. Hey guys, I'm in editing mode right now. Just subscribe, by the way. Bye. All right, in number 4, we have got Electronic Arts. This one is a classic one to hate on, to dog on. What for? One, they're absolute pay to win in Battlefront 2. I'm sure you've all heard of that already. Where you could it was like you could play like 1,000 hours of Battlefront 2 for Darth Vader, or you could pay like $50, something like that. I don't play the game. EA is known for putting ads in some of their games. Particularly, we're talking specifically about their UFC 4 game, where they would play ads in between or before matches. And that is just disgusting for a game that you pay full price for. I'm sure you've heard that line a million times by this point. But yeah, it's not great. Admittedly, EA, from what I've seen, is getting a little better. Of course, they're having problems with that recent Star Wars game, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. It's very buggy on PC, but it is clear to me that they are trying to improve it, and their game quality in the past couple of years, I do think, has gotten much better. Battlefront 2 is more fun now than it used to be. I have played a little bit. But yeah, so number 4, not great, but they are getting a little better. So I got to give them a little credit there. Number 3 is one you might have heard of, but not too much about. Number 3 on the worst video games ranked is Tencent. So, Tencent is a giant Chinese company. They don't just do games, they also have like a messaging service in China. They have their own DRM, which if you're not a PC player, that's the application that can launch games like Steam. You've probably heard of Steam. They have their own version of that by Tencent there that is required to play some of the games because of Tencent's monopoly. over some games in China. They've also been known to follow the pay to win model abhorrently. I can think of like they bought out PUBG and they kind of made that a shit show. No one really plays PUBG anymore, from what I know, and it does not look too good. I've played a little bit on PC myself, and I could not get more than like an hour in. It was not a great experience. It's so bad. On top of that, yeah, they like buy out a lot of game companies and they make a bunch of crappy mobile games. And they were actually caught earlier this week on their messaging service trying to charge people for their like higher for one of their educational services, their messaging services. They tried to start charging people, and it was such a big controversy they had to pull back just a couple days ago. So that's not great. I would look more into that yourself, though. I don't know, have all the info, of course. Do what you want. Number 2, I am very upset to put on this list. Number 2 is Game Freak, the main developers for the Pokemon games, and that's all that's really relevant about them at this point for the past 20 years. They have made original games, they haven't really worked. But why are they so bad? Game Freak, and this is a problem with the Pokemon company as a whole. Game Freak has very strict deadlines on certain things, and there's a lot of crunch. Oh my god, dude. These deadlines are creating this crunch, and of course, we all know what happened with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet late last year. It was not a great situation. The game is still not running great, and sadly, that is kind of the norm for Pokemon now with the last 2 main entries. I guess if you count Arceus, you could say 3 even. They're not great games right now, unfortunately, and they need to figure their shit out. Like, you can't crunch people like that. The crunch must be so bad there for a game to come out like that, full price. I can't imagine the stress that the workers are under. Like, dude, it's unfortunate. It's incredibly unfortunate. But of course, how can you top that? Treating workers poorly is like my number one. Surprisingly, EA, from what I've heard, from what I've seen, treats their workers well. But number one is, of course, obviously, you probably saw it a mile away. Activision Blizzard is number one. Multiple things. They kind of combine everything that these past companies have done and put them all into one. Of course, the sexual harassment cases that came out a couple years ago, those were so bad to the point where they had to change a character in the game's name. Like, if your problem is that intense, you have serious issues where someone who can get away with that is credited in the game to a point where he is a character. That's terrible. And it really shows what's going on in that company. There are horror stories I've read about people leaving that company and their experiences. Not on top of that, and of course that's the biggest part. On top of that, more recently, you've heard the Overwatch 2 controversy, how they advertised a full PvE campaign and just scrapped it. That was the selling point for Overwatch 2. Of course, it was going free to play regardless, but there's still a commitment there. And they just got rid of it. They just announced it was done. There's some PvE mode they're adding in, and I'm sure that's going to be fine, but that's nothing compared to what they had advertised. Like, you can't just go around doing that. On top of that, they have recycled so much content over the years. Of course, from what I've heard, I don't play any Activision Blizzard games myself. The last Call of Duty I played was Cold War, and I've never played Overwatch, so maybe I'm missing something. But from what I've heard, they are known for recycling their content. They are known for just, like Overwatch 2, a bunch of the same crap. Just ported over, new engine, or whatever. Like, it's not even a new game. Overwatch 2 is just Overwatch 1 again. And you can't do that. And now you're expecting people to buy battle passes. You're expecting people to buy these consistently over the course of years. You can't fucking do that, man. That's a shitty practice, and it's going to make people hate your company. Activision Blizzard has done everything wrong. Like, dude, I don't know how they get away with it. I don't know how they're not under yet. I will never buy another Activision Blizzard product after Cold War. Never. I'm done with them. Of course, I wasn't even there to begin with, but screw it. They're terrible. I'm not participating. That's pretty much the list. There's some honorable mentions that I did not add. We of course have Nintendo, known for their recent stuff. I didn't add them; it just didn't feel extreme enough. And from what I know, they treat their workers pretty well. Of course, that's big for me. There's also Konami, which I also have a personal grudge against for what they did to Hideo Kojima back when the Metal Gear Solid 5 thing was going on. I just didn't put it on there. I felt there were more extreme cases. Of course, Konami isn't doing that great either, looking back. But it is what it is, you know? All right, that's pretty much it. Subscribe. Bye.